Hey, welcome back to another episode of From the Trenches. Today's topic is going to be 4 things I do to live financially free so that you can never stress about bills again. This is some of the things that have helped me build multiple six figures of wealth in different portfolios like crypto, real estate, different businesses. So I'm super excited to dive in today because I think you guys are going to get a lot of value of it. Let's get into the flow. So if you guys are new to the trenches, hi, my name is Sam Martin. I went from being frustrated with a whole bunch of different jobs that I hated, kind of bouncing around, to being able to make 30K a month in high ticket sales, traveled the world, scaled a company to $1 million a year, which allowed me to build financial freedom and have a lot of wealth, which I've been super blessed with. Now I mentor people to build their own freedom. So what we do here on From the Trenches is just updates on things that I'm working on, things that I'm learning, kind of over the shoulder mentorship that's been really valuable, kind of style of learning and teaching that I've gotten from some of my mentors, and then also questions and today's topic. So we'll go ahead and dive in with just some updates. If you want to skip to the financial training, like how to live financially free, there should be a little clicker thing that you can skip ahead a few minutes. But a few things that I've been learning I think will be valuable for you no matter what stage you're at. If you're trying to build financial freedom or if you're trying to just grow in your career. And that is, like, recently I was talking about this with one of my clients, but I've done tons of different meetings, like sales conversations over the years, probably several thousand at least. And recently I was having a really rough, like, last couple weeks on calls, like on demos, on presentations where I'm trying to pitch, I'm trying to close, and I was like just getting super frustrated with it. But I realized that what was happening is I was bringing some of the challenges that I've been going through and showing up to the calls with that energy and that mindset, and I wasn't bringing the authority and I wasn't bringing the prize frame that had led me to so much success in the past. And it just reminded me that no matter how new or how experienced you are at anything, when you haven't done something for a while, or whether you're doing it for the first time, you have to have repetition and volume to get back up to a level of proficiency. And the actual tactical things that you're saying are critical for sure, and that's part of the repetition. But even more importantly is the state that you're bringing it with. And if you're in a powerful state, if you're focused, if you're present, if you're dialed in, the words that you say will land with such impact, regardless if you have like the perfect words to say or not. So that was one of the things that shifted for me. Is I recognized, okay, I need to get more reps in because I'm not as proficient as I need to be, and I need to fix my state. So I combined those two things together, and it shifted things like that. I don't want to make it sound like that. It did take, obviously, time and reps and work to, like, over the period of a couple days, probably, I would say. But relatively, like, fast. Once I shifted, I was like, okay, I need to get out of learning mode and just trying to think about and study the perfect sales process, because I was learning a new sales process that I haven't been doing before, and I need to just start repping it. I need to start repping it, on call and off call, and then I started doing that. That helped me, like, build some momentum, and I brought that prize frame back. Which, if you're not familiar with the prize frame, Oren Klaff talks about this in his book Pitch Anything, which is a great book. I highly recommend it if you're learning sales, business, communication, at any level. But the prize frame is basically like, there's a million opportunities out there, but there's only one of me. And, like, why should I work with you? Why should I accept this opportunity rather than you chasing the person or the deal or whatever? And when you maintain that prize frame, it just allows you to have effective conversations and gets you to stop chasing the deal. Because when you chase the deal, when you are coming after people, you bring this sense of neediness and scarcity that chases the deal away even further. So I combined those two things together, and then it was basically just stacking little wins. And I was just reminded again of how much momentum and wins are such a game changer, because that allows you to double down and lean into your prize frame when you're winning, whether that's just like a win of like, I got up early today, I went for a run, right? Or like, hey, I closed a small deal. Hey, I hit my, my call volume that I need to, whatever. You stack those little wins, and that allows you to come with more certainty, more authority moving forward. So anyway, that's something that I've been working on. That's been a great reminder for me of like, I teach this, I train this, and I've seen it play out 1,000 times. But whenever you are back in the trenches or learning a new thing, the same fundamentals apply. So that's been a great reminder for me, and hopefully that's valuable for you as you're learning a new skill set or growing your skill set and taking that to the next level. So diving into questions, we'll see if we have any here today on the channel. If you guys have questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments below, and I try to answer them. Don't see any in here right now. This guy wants to sell me something. I don't want to verify right now. So no questions. If you guys have questions, go ahead and drop them down below. I'll try to answer them if I get a chance. So let's dive into today's topic. 4 things that I do to live financially free. And like I said, these are fundamentals that I do and have done for years that have allowed me to build up multiple 6 figures of wealth in different categories and different investment portfolios, and that allow me to not stress about bills, right? And I want you to have that same financial security. And you can do that right now, right? No matter how much money you currently have or currently making, this is going to be the fundamentals that will help you live financially free even right now. So number one is I'm always, the one thing that I'm doing is I'm always investing before I spend anything. So what you need to do is, like, I pre-decide before the month starts that I'm going to invest X amount of money no matter what. Like, I don't know what bills are going to pop up. I don't know, if we're going to go out to eat, if we're going to travel, whatever. I'm always investing first every single month. So what I recommend doing, what I do, is I have a recurring investment into the S&P 500 that puts money in there every single month, no matter if the market's going up, if the market's going down. I'm always investing, and I have that on my, my finances first. So no matter what happens, I'm always investing. And I also do that with crypto every single month. Market's going up like crazy, market's burning like crazy, and you're like, holy crap, am I going to lose all my money? Every single month, consistency. It's called dollar cost averaging. And it's okay to suck. It's not okay to skip. So this is another thing of like mentality wise, even if you're really struggling financially, don't say, oh, I'll start investing in the future, blah, blah, whatever, when I make more money. No. Start investing now and never stop investing for the rest of your career, for the rest of your life. Every single month, invest. It's okay to suck. So like, even if all you can do is $10 a month or whatever, never skip, right? Set it up automatically that invest every single month. And that'll be a game changer for you. I recommend at least a couple hundred a month, even if you're only making like 50 grand a year, 30 grand a year, it doesn't matter. You can carve out at least 100, at least a couple hundred a month. And that, if you run the numbers on like compounding interest or compounding growth, it's crazy, the results. So that's one of the things I'm doing is I'm always investing before I spend anything. I put that in. I already decided, doesn't matter what bills pop up, I always invest in myself first, whether that's obviously I do coaching and mentorship and stuff like that, but also stocks, crypto, real estate is a little different, but same idea. So number 2 is I fight like crazy for the gap. So the one thing is that this is kind of a mindset thing. So maybe this is like I'm thinking about it in the right way. So one of the things is a lot of people don't understand is like you are always moving closer or further towards financial freedom, right? Right now, in this moment, whatever you're making per month, whether it's a couple grand a month, whether it's 10 grand a month, 50, it doesn't matter. You are right now in this moment moving closer towards financial freedom or further away. And the speed at which you move towards financial freedom or how financially free you are is the gap between how much you're making and how much you're spending, right? Whatever that gap is, whatever that margin is, that's how fast you're moving towards financial freedom. So if your gap is nothing, you make 5,000 a month, you spend 5,000 a month, then you're not making any progress towards financial freedom. You're going through time, like if this is your timeline, you're going through time and you're not making any progress. If your gap is negative, right? If you're spending more money than you're making, then you're actually going backwards. I guess you're getting less and less financially free. You're accumulating debt. You're making it harder for yourself in the future than it is right now, because you're inflating it, right, in a negative way. If your gap is like this, you're making more than you're spending. Say you're making $5,000 a month, you're only spending $2,000. You're at a rate of $3,000 a month, moving towards financial freedom. So somebody who's making 50 grand a year and spending 30 grand a year is better off than someone who's making 100 grand a year and spending 90 grand a year, right? In terms of speed towards financial freedom. So understand that's one of the things that I do is like, I'm always thinking about, okay, how fast am I moving towards financial freedom right now in this moment? And just understanding, like for me, it's always understanding that it's unnatural for a gap to exist. So it requires extreme discipline and consistency to maintain that gap, right? There's a quote that says a project will always expand to the allotted time for it, right? And it's the same thing with finances and resources. Your expenditures, your money that's going out will always expand. Naturally, it'll always expand to match the inflow, right? You will spend as much money as you make naturally, unless you provide an unnatural management and discipline and focus of consistently to maintain that gap. So that's critical. That's why you see people that like they're broke all their life and then they start making all this money somehow, and then it's like boom, expenses go up like that. So what you want to do, and what I tried to always do, is like you want to earn like you're rich and you want to spend like you're poor, right? Because that brings a fat gap, and you got to bring that fat gap. No, but the wider that gap is, the more progress that you're going to make. I had a friend who knew how much money I was making, and he was like, dude, why are you driving this beater car? And I was like, he was like, dude, if I was making that money, like I would have this nice car, whatever. And I had actually had this multiple times happen. And I was like, cool, that's great. Like you can do that. But like, I think what I said to him was, I was like, I value freedom over status, right? Over luxury. So I'm like, if I can put that, if I'm making 30K a month and I'm spending 2,500 or whatever, I would rather spend 2,500 a month and invest 20K a month than to spend 25K a month and like have nice cars and live in a penthouse and all this crap. Because that's what I'm prioritizing, is I'm prioritizing the speed to freedom and how much freedom that I have, right? So for you right now in this moment, you can prioritize the gap over luxury, right? And you might think, oh, I don't have luxury, blah, blah, whatever. If you have a $600 or $1,000 a month or even $500, whatever, car payment, like you are prioritizing luxury, because you could get a cheaper car that's like more affordable, but it's not as cool, it doesn't look good, whatever. Or if you have a $2,000 a month rent, right? You're prioritizing comfort, or maybe 5,000, 10,000, whatever. Depends obviously where you live. But if you have a great nice place to live that's like expensive, whatever, you could live with a roommate, or you could live somewhere that's less expensive. You could, there's different things you could do, but like you're prioritizing luxury, you're prioritizing comfort over that gap. So that's something you can always do is trim that down. So one of the things I always do is monthly audits and spending freezes or dollar tracking. So I do this seasonally. Like I'm always doing the monthly audits, but I'm not always doing spending freezes. Spending freeze is just like, I'm going to go through the month and I'm not going to spend money on anything unless like it's needed to like stay alive or get work done, right? And this is hard for some people to, get their head around or whatever. But it's like groceries, gas to get to work, and like anything to keep the lights on. Other than that, nothing. You do that for 30 days and you'll be amazed how much dumb stuff you spend money on. And like within just 1 month, you'll have created so much margin that you're like, oh my, wow, like this is insane. And then dollar tracking too. I don't typically recommend doing this all the time of like tracking every single dollar that goes out. But if your gap is flat like that and you're not making any progress towards financial freedom because you're negative and you don't even know where your money's going, then like you got to track every single dollar. Like pause, clean your stuff up, know where your money's going, and that'll make a huge difference. So this is one of the sheets that I use just as an example of like, because you have two kind of different types of spending. You have your recurring costs that are like fixed. And so that's like over here where basically you have like, you know, any subscriptions, you have rent, you have investments, whatever. And then you have, so those are like your fixed costs. Like I know every single month I'm going to spend this much on this item, or like roughly, like I know I'm going to spend about $500 a month on groceries, whatever. And then you have like the actual money that was spent, right? So you have your fixed costs and you should know what that is. Like, okay, if I tally these all up, blah, blah, 900 a month, whatever. That's not all of them, but, in this example, it looks like this person's spending, oh yeah, it's right here, the 3K. So know exactly what your fixed costs are. This is like, if I just live like normal and like the month goes by, I know I'm going to spend this much, but then you also want to track your actual spending. So at the end of every month, I'm auditing not only like, hey, what are my fixed costs, but then like how much money actually went out the door. Was I doing, was I like spending a bunch of money on random stuff online? Was I going out to eat, whatever? Again, it's not fun. And I don't even like to do this personally. I would rather just like do whatever, but the people who manage their gap and watch where their finances are going, like whatever you track is what makes progress. Like if you track it, you'll make progress on it. If you don't track it, you won't make progress on it. Cool. So the third thing that I do is expand and contract money seasons. So number 2, like I'm just talking about a lot of like cuts and like reserving your funds and whatever. And that's not a ton of fun. And it's also it's important not to be focused on that long term or always. So what I do is I call it like expand and contract money seasons. So if you think of like a bodybuilder, what they do is they do go through these extreme seasons of like bulking up where they're eating like tons of calories, they're working out super heavy and they're bulking up, right? But they're not like worried about like carbs and sugar and whatever. They're just like bulking, right? And they're lifting heavy and they grow. And then they do cut seasons, which is like they're really tight on their calories, their macros, whatever. And they're doing high intensity cardio, whatever. And they're like cutting it all down. And then they make the muscle super lean and shredded, right? So that's what you want to do with your money. And you got to understand that like money goes through those seasons too. Both for you as an individual and for like the economy as a whole seasonally, right? Where it's like some seasons in the economy, like everything's booming, everything's going crazy. Some seasons things are like tightening up, contracting, whatever. And if you look at like the federal government and what, the current administration is in there doing right now, like they're cutting a lot of expenses, they're cleaning things up. They're in a season of contracting, right? And big companies have to do this too. Because no matter if you're a company, if you're a government, or if you're an individual, if you don't manage your gap and if you don't watch your inflow and your outflow and make sure like you have margin there, you're going to get screwed, right? So this is what I do is I will go through seasons where I'm like really hard on the expenses, where I'm going through my recurring costs, like over here, like I just showed. And I'm like, okay, I have this, blah, blah. And then I'm like, archive everything. Pretend I had none of this anymore, right? And then I just add things back in one at a time in 3 different categories. Category number 1 is like, I need this to survive. If I don't have this, I'm going to die, which is like groceries, a place to live, whatever. So that's like absolute needs. And then the next thing is like luxuries. This is anything that's like not what, is going to keep you alive. And then it's like, okay, well, like I really want to, work out, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. So then it's like luxuries, and then it's like you add in your last thing, which is like, these would be like extra things that like, okay, I'm just going to cut these. I don't want this. It doesn't align with my values, what I want to spend on. But then you're just not fooling yourself with like, okay, these are all the things I have luxuries on, and I'll trim super hard. And then what I do is I go back to focusing on expansion, right? Because what a lot of people do, like, and if you follow Dave Ramsey or like some of the like budget people, is they're always focused on like saving money and coupons and cutting and blah, blah, blah. But then it's like basically what it does is it forces you into this mindset of like scarcity and poverty almost, because you're like watching every dollar and you're like squeezing every dollar and blah, blah. And the next thing you know, you're driving a crappy car and you're living in a crappy house and you're like clipping coupons and you're picking up coins on the side of the road or whatever. It's like you're super poor, right? You don't want to have a poor mindset, right? So you have to maintain a mindset and a state of abundance, right? Because there is plenty of money to go around, and certain seasons you'll be more focused on expansions. Certain seasons you'll be more focused on cutting down, but you want to trim down hard and then go back to focusing on income, focusing on growth, right? So for me, it's 80-20 focus on offense, and offense is making money. Because if I'm just sitting there like, oh, I'm trying to trim everything and I'm like trying to cut the budget and blah, blah, it's like you can only bring your bottom line down so far. You can't live on nothing, right? Or you'll die. So if you're spending $5,000 a month, you might be able to reduce that by like 20% or whatever. Maybe you can bring that down to $3,500 a month. So you've saved $1,500 a month guaranteed, which is good, right? But you can't, like, you're not going to bring that down to zero. So it's like if you spend your whole time trying to clip coupons and, to go from $3,500 to like $3,400, you're spending all your time on something that's diminishing returns. And that means the more and more time you spend on it, the less and less effect it has. And conversely, if you cut hard, you trim down, and then you maintain that state, and then you go back to focusing on expansion, now you can take your top line up, and there's an infinite amount of upside. Like you can increase your income infinitely, but you can only bring your downside down so far. So you need both. If you just focus on the upside, you see some people do that, and then like their expenses just go up with them, and they're just like rich broke people basically, and that's even more stressful because you have all this stuff happening, whatever. You have all these expenses and you're like forced to stay on that treadmill and make all this money. So your maximum peace and like freedom is when you're crushing it and making tons of money and you're like keeping your expenses super low. So that's what you want to do, right? So 80% focus on offense. I have clients sometimes that are like, oh, like, should I cut this? Should I do that with the budget? I respect it. I appreciate it. And like, you want to trim the budget down, but you also got to look at yourself reflectively and say, okay, am I someone who is like been spending weeks and months just like trying to trim the budget and do all these things to make like to save $1? If that's the state that you're in, it's like you're in a scarcity mindset and you are hyper analyzing on the finances on every single dollar. So don't do that, because if you do that, it'll take your focus away from the offense and you'll just basically be that person I described earlier that's going around picking up quarters. Conversely, if you're the person that's always like just trying to make money, blah, blah, spending, you have no idea what's happening with your finances, you'll be the person who's making $100,000 a year or 200 to 500, whatever, and is spending every single dollar of it. And you'll be even more stressed because you have all this risk and all this overhead and all this stuff that you have to keep up with. You have to keep going. Is this making sense? If this is helpful, go ahead and drop a like, drop a comment. Let me know what your takeaways are from this. Last thing here, number 4 is manage your state and trust God. This is probably the most important of it all. Managing your state is what I talked about earlier, is like not letting your focus go towards scarcity or poverty, right? Even in a market like right now, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of scarcity, there is contraction. So you want to be aware of that. Like when the market shifts and the overall economy or certain industry sectors, whatever, start focusing more on like a contraction season. Think of this as like winter. then you want to shift your marketing, you want to shift your approach, your focus to help people sell. Like when you're selling something, you want to focus more on security, more on stability, protection than like growth expansion, because that's what's important to people in that season. So you have to understand that. But managing your internal state of like, I know if I just do these fundamentals, I'm going to be good. And then that takes the pressure off. And when the pressure is off, then it allows you to go back and focus more on offense. So you don't get caught in this scarcity, in this poverty mode, right? So you have to control your internal state, right? Because if you are needy and scarcity, whatever driven, money will run away from you. People, deals, opportunities will run away from you. So you have to keep that focus on the upside, on abundance, while being disciplined and consistent with your bottom side management. And then obviously like trust God, because like there are things that are outside of your control, and you never know like what's going to happen. Whatever, you manage your fundamentals and you'll be good. But knowing like abundance comes from God, he has all things covered and all things come from him, so you don't need to stress it anyway, right? Like he's got it. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this is valuable. I wanted to dive into this because I hear a lot of people struggling with this right now, where things are getting tight, finances are a struggle, people are stressing out of bills, you know, the expenses and the income are smashed up against each other, or they're opposite. So I hope this is helpful. If you guys got some value, like I said, drop a like, drop a comment, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.